Well, during the crisis, hospitals around the country found themselves in bidding wars with other hospitals desperate for protective gear. Today, hospital supply buyer Premier struck a deal with a key maker of surgical masks. Meg Terrell with us tonight with Premier's CEO Susan DeVore. Meg, I'll send it back to you.
Scott, thanks so much. And Susan DeVore, thank you for being here with us. You know, it's a really fascinating deal because it's not just you who's buying this minority stake, but also 15 of your members who are health systems, hospitals. I mean, really buying an ownership stake in the largest domestic supplier of face masks. Just tell us about how this deal came together.
You know, Meg, Premier serves 4,000 hospitals, 175,000 other providers of care, and it is really important for us to be able to help them get all the supplies they need to protect their employees and to protect their patients and their communities. 15 of our healthcare systems, representing hundreds of hospitals across the country, came together and said, we need to take control here, and we need to bring more of this manufacturing back to the U.S. We found this company in Texas a few months ago, and we've been in discussions with them ever since. And the idea is these health systems make long-term commitments to buy the supplies from this company. This company increases their production capacity. Prestige Ameritech only sells to the U.S., so it's 100% U.S.-based. And they manufacture critical face masks and N95 masks and surgical masks. And so we felt like it was really important to push this forward.
Well, sitting where you sit, you have a view that most people don't into the supply chain. Tell us what you observed at sort of the height of these bidding wars between states, between hospitals, trying to get the supplies that they needed. And in some cases, did you observe this necessity really to bid against one another, making the situation worse because it was driving prices up?
All of that is true. When you only get 5% of your face masks in the U.S., manufactured in the U.S., this applies to pharmaceutical ingredients too, where less than 20% is manufactured in the U.S. And you have a pandemic and you have over 200 countries that all need the same stuff. Everybody, we were competing with countries, we were competing with states, government was competing with private sector. And the challenge for hospitals and healthcare systems is they just needed to take care of patients. And there was not a lot of transparency about how decisions were being made, where that scarce product was going, and the demand increased from normal loads to 17 to 30 times the normal level of demand. And so our goal here in doing it with the provider health systems is we're going to bring transparency to all of it. We're going to bring commitment to all of it. Price did go up. You know, these masks used to cost 35 to 45 cents a piece. In its heyday, that price went up as high as $8. It's now come down to around $3 to $6. But we had a problem with too much of our manufacturing offshore, and we need to have a diversified supply chain in the U.S., but also near shore and some diversification. We think it's a mistake to bring it all to the U.S. So this is part of a bigger strategy.
Yeah, I mean, there is such a push right now to create more of a supply chain that is domestic within the United States. And as you mentioned, we're seeing that also in the pharmaceutical industry and seeing a lot of pushback to that. A great story in Stat News today about how the pharmaceutical lobby is pushing back against potential legislation trying to encourage or require these companies to make their products in the U.S. I mean, what kinds of moves are you observing across the healthcare industry in terms of trying to get supply from the United States? Where else will we see this?
You know, I think that we do need some involvement of governments to incent manufacturing back to the U.S. But I don't think we need to put all of our eggs in one basket, because then you'd just be, you know, one natural disaster away from compromising the supply chain if it were all manufactured in the U.S. So our idea, and at Premier, we are talking to all of our manufacturers as well as federal and state governments about having at least one domestic supplier, having at least 3 suppliers, global and domestic, nearshore, offshore, for critical products that are always going to be necessary in any kind of epidemic, pandemic, bioterrorism. And so I think it's going to be a balance, and I think we need to be thoughtful about how we spread it out and how we make sure we have diversified access to product. And I think manufacturers want that too. I think the worry is that we might swing the pendulum too far in one direction.
And of course, you know, this guarantees a long-term supply. Given perhaps a steady supply, are there solutions in place or being put in place if there is, again, a massive spike in demand for this equipment, if we face another pandemic scenario or another spike in the fall potentially?
Well, we are bracing for, you know, future rounds of COVID-19. All our health systems are reopening all of their surgeries. The demand for these products is going to increase. To give you some context, these 15 health systems alone have committed to 46 million masks a year, 46 million units of product, and we'll be ramping up to 100 million. To serve many of our other members. And so I think that as this plays out, it will play out in waves. And even with a vaccine, we are going to have syringe shortages. We've already got gown shortages. And you know, the approach is to get in front of it, figure out what the next wave of demand is going to be, and try to ramp up that production all around the world, but a lot more of it domestically to meet the needs.
All right, Susan DeVore, thanks for being here with us tonight.
Thank you.